Welcome friends to Beth's Happy Home. Ever since 1988, we've had raspberry pie for Thanksgiving. I had a friend named Stefania Akinaka and she gave me this recipe. The condition of this same recipe in her handwriting is almost completely unreadable. But luckily I've made it so many times that I have it pretty well memorized. And I've made a few tweaks to improve it. Anyway, I'm going to share it with you and you're going to love it too. We're going to start with a half a cup of lemon juice and a half a cup of water. So it's half a cup of lemon juice, half a cup of water. That goes in there by itself first so that we can dissolve a heaping cup of cornstarch in the water lemon juice combination because this water is cold. So we're going to start with this lemon juice and water, and we're just going to get the cornstarch dissolved, and it's a low ratio of water to cornstarch, so the cornstarch wants to be really globby, but it needs to just be all wet down in the cold water before we add the warm water. So it's all wet now and it won't be lumpy. So I'm going to add 4 cups of hot water. So we're going to have a total of 4.5 cups of water and half a cup of lemon juice. And now you can see it stirs really easily and the cornstarch dissolves. You want that to get a good firm texture for the pie, the finished pie. So here is 3 1/3 cups of white sugar. Dump that in there. Obviously this is a once a year type recipe. And then I'm going to add 12 ounces of mixed berries. This has blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries in it. And they're frozen, obviously. So I'm going to start thawing them and stirring this until it's thick. I'm also going to add a 16-ounce package of blackberries. Ordinarily, I like this recipe a little bit better with just a combination of raspberries and blackberries, but I found that I didn't have them and I needed to do this recipe tonight because I'm serving this tomorrow. Anyway, so I partially thawed these blackberries in the microwave because since they're going to be cooked, they can be a little bit soft and it's not going to matter. So I'm just going to cook this down, and as the chunks of strawberry and other frozen berries thaw, I'm going to mash them a little bit so that the strawberries aren't in great big chunks. And then when it gets thick, I'll bring you back and show you what's next. Okay, this is starting to thicken. You can see the color is getting a little bit darker as it gets a little bit, as it's starting to get thick. It's not quite boiling yet, and the blueberries are all swollen up, and the raspberries and the strawberries have pretty well broken up, so that you just see their little seeds floating around in there. And once it's boiling, then I'm going to just boil it for a minute so that it's thoroughly cooked and everything is well distributed. Alright, this has boiled for a minute and I've turned the fire off. So now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and I'm going to add another 16 ounces of frozen blackberries. So these are, you want them frozen because you want them to cool off, help cool off this mix. You let this mixture cool completely before you fill the pie crust. At least, it doesn't have to be completely cool, but it needs to be nothing more than warm, and so those frozen berries will help give it a head start. So while that cools, I'm going to go ahead and make the pie crust, but I've already done the video on the pie crust, and so I'll just get that done quickly and then bring you back when I'm ready to assemble the pies. Okay, I've got these crusts in the pans, and you can see I've left this edge really ragged because I'm going to put a top crust on top of it. And this is still warm, but it's not hot. And I'll just dish it into the pie crust and fill it right up to the edge. Kind of push that side back. That isn't what I wanted to do. So you want it real full, although I do think that's a little bit too full, come to think of it, because I don't want it spilling over. You fill up both the pie crust. It'll fill 2 deep dish pie crust plus one other smaller regular pie crust with this filling. I think that I'm going to put some of it in storage and just save it for Thanksgiving. Here's a piece of pie crust that I rolled out, and I'm just going to lay it right over the top of it like a cap, and then peel off the wax paper. You can use parchment paper also, but it seems like because wax paper is a little bit more flimsy, it's easier to peel off. And I used to have a sheet that was for pie crust, and I finally gave up on it. It worked fine, but it was just another thing to store, and the wax paper works just as well in my mind. So we'll take the wax paper off. And now I want to seal these 2 crusts together, so I'm going to fold over this ragged edge that is all along the outside. I'm just going to start by folding it over, making sure there's no tags hanging down. You want to kind of fold it into the bottom crust into and over the top crust. So at this point it looks ragged, but that's okay. So we're just folding it up so that, and kind of pushing these together all the way along. Okay. Brush off any little dangling pieces. Now I'm going to crimp it. I'm going to do it just by pinching pinching it with my fingers and my thumbs and pushing it out like that. So trying to make it so that you can see what I'm doing. Just pinching it between my 2 fingers and then squeezing a little crimp out in between my index fingers. Now, as soon as I have this crimp, the crimp serves 2 purposes. It forms a lip around the edge of the pie crust so that if it bubbles up, it isn't going to spill over. And it is decorative, and it fulfills 3 purposes because it also seals the 2 crusts together. Now, I'm going to set that pie aside for just a second. I will do the other pie in a minute, but for right now, I want to show you a little trick that I think is kind of fun. Put that out of the way. I'm just going to flatten this down. It's soft enough to use my finger. Yeah. First I'm going to cut some vents on the pie crust in kind of a star shape, star pattern, just so that it can bubble up there. Then I'm going to make some holly leaves, because Thanksgiving is kind of what kicks off the Christmas season, right? and mark them like a leaf so that it has its veins. Then do another one over here. Actually, I think I'll pick that one up first. Put it in the middle of the pie. So you get the idea. They don't need to be the same size. Whoops, didn't put the little leaf looking veins on there, and it needs its veins. And then one more. There's all kinds of Christian symbolism in holly. The green thorny leaf, evergreen thorny leaf, the crown of thorns that was put on Christ at his crucifixion. The red berries are like the drops of blood that were spilled for mankind. And so it's kind of fun to have those simple little symbols as part of our Thanksgiving celebration. And now you've got the 3 little holly leaves. The number 3 is also a scripturally significant symbolic number. 3 members of the Godhood, mainly. We're going to put the little holly berries in there too. So that pie is all decorated and pretty and ready to bake. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, and then I'll show you what they look like after they have baked in the oven.